And welcome to this edition of Championship Rewind here on Coffee with Graeme with your host, Graeme Forsyth. And in the first three episodes of Championship Rewind, we were looking at the Winnipeg High School Hockey League, the Winnipeg Free Press Division champion Belleville Barracudas. But in the next portion, these next three episodes of Championship Rewind, we take a look back at the Zone 4 High School Hockey champions of 2019-2020, the Mountain Mustangs. And for the first time since 2008, this team was able to win a league championship. And through the years, this team they've hosted many great teams for the Mountain Mustangs, but this team was stacked from top to bottom. It included the MVP of the league, Merrick DeGrave. They had solid goaltending, and they were one of the best defensive teams in the league as well. And they had a first-year high school head coach in Chad Foster, who joined the squad this year. And Chad has plenty of experience in coaching up to this point, as well as he coached minor hockey for several years, the highest level being Bantam A, and he decided to take that step to coaching high school hockey this year. So before we get into it, we're going to play the intro here, but Chad Foster will be joining us here in just a moment on this edition of Championship Rewind with your host, Graeme Forsyth. And now we bring in the Mountain Mustangs head coach, Chad Foster, here into the show, joining Championship Rewind on this lovely Friday afternoon, as the show will be airing on Thursday, but it's Friday afternoon, and Chad is joining us here now. Chad, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about you, Graeme?
I'm doing very good, and it's a great thing that you decided to join us here today on Championship Rewind. And before we get into anything with what you did with the Mountain Mustangs this year, their championship season, we're going to get into your coaching career and your playing career as well. So I had a chance to talk to you the other day via text, and you were saying that you've had years of playing high school hockey, and you've had a chance to play beer league now in your life.
Yeah, that's correct. Like you say, I played, I guess, minor hockey my whole life growing up in Somerset here, and then we moved on after minor hockey into the high school hockey. Played with the Mountain Mustangs, I guess, back in the day. So, kind of a neat thing to be able to coach the team that I once played for.
And that must be a pretty cool experience to, all these years later, coach a team that you grew up playing some of your best years of hockey, I'm sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The high school hockey years were likely my most memorable hockey years out there, right? So had a lot of fun, met a lot of great people. Like you say, just real memorable for me. Also, I guess another thing is my dad actually coached me on the Mustangs back when I played, so it's kind of neat to get to do the same thing with my son here.
Yeah, and Liam Foster was your son. So how cool was that experience? Obviously, going in, it's going to be a cool experience getting to coach your son, but when you actually get to do it, experience it for the first time, I'm sure that's a special moment for sure.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. I've coached him on and off throughout the years, I guess, in his hockey career. And also in ball, but I hadn't coached him for a few years here now, so it was real neat, pretty cool to be able to do that and share that bond with him.
And through the years, you've been able to coach him on and off, as you said. But this year in high school, he was a grade 12 as well. How proud were you as a father to see all the improvements, all the adjustments he's made to his game throughout the years, and really come full circle this year?
Yeah, that's a pretty proud moment, when we see, well, and not only Liam, I've coached a lot of these boys, but yeah, when you see your own son lifting that championship banner, and just the pride that you feel, and I think the pride too is pretty amazing.
Just 1 second here, Chad. We did lose your mic. I'm sure everyone else can hear it. We seem to have this problem on StreamYard quite a bit, but we're gonna take a a commercial break that we weren't planning to take so early here. We're going to figure out the technical difficulties, and we'll be back in just a moment with Chad Foster, head coach of the Mountain Mustangs. But first, we're going to hear from our supportive sponsors that have decided to support the show here and go to our first commercial break.
Hi, I'm Nettie Weiss from Metalmaster. You had an accident? Sometimes they're embarrassing, but they're always inconvenient. We have an incredible staff to take care of you. We have platinum certified techs in 4 different categories. We are certified as a gold class accredited shop. If you've made a claim already, perfect. Call us with your claim number. If you need a claim opened, give us a call. We'll walk you through it. Sometimes you can get a little nervous dealing with NPI. We'll help you out. From Metalmaster Auto Body, straighten it out.
A bit of a technical difficulty there on my side, but we got Chad back in here in this edition of Championship Rewind on Coffee with Graeme, and we didn't get into much yet, just quite yet, but we were talking about Chad's playing career just a bit and about how he was proud to coach his son again this season in his son's final year of high school hockey. So just moving into your coaching career, you said that you've coached at the minor hockey level prior to this year for about 10 to 12 years. So the highest level you coached was minor bantam, but at the beginning, what level did you start off coaching?
Just right at the beginning with the squirts, I guess you could call them back in the day. So I coached my son Liam first of all when he was in squirts. I don't know what they're called now, but so that was always an interesting challenge, I guess, with some of those kids. And I do have 2 other children now that I coached as well, kind of throughout their hockey lives so far. So started right at the bottom, right at squirts, and kind of worked my way up to this level now.
So you started from the bottom. Now you're at one of the highest levels, I guess, beyond minor hockey, which is high school hockey. So through the years, just talking about how you started off coaching at such a young age level, moving up. What were the biggest challenges of really managing a team full of really young kids that are full of energy for sure?
Yeah, lots of energy, a lot of how would you call it? I guess, yeah, like you say, a lot of energy. It's really hard to control that sometimes on the bench and in the stands or in the dressing room. You know, you're looking at some kids that are, you know, there for the hockey. Some kids really want to play the game. Some kids are really good at it. Other kids are there for the social side of things, right? So you really have to manage that whole thing, and it's quite interesting. You know, the early ages too, when you get some kids that can skate really well and handle a puck, and some of the other kids that can't even skate at all. They can't even stand up on their 2 feet on a pair of skates. You know, it's a real big challenge to control that.
Did you find that as you got more experience coaching that it was easier to handle the things like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it does get easier, and you learn pretty quickly to ask for help as well. You know, when I first started coaching, I thought, oh, I could do this on my own, right? It's going to be easy, but you realize pretty quick that you need to get that extra help, extra hands, extra eyes, extra ears. You know, it really makes a difference.
Is that one of the biggest ways that you changed along the way being a coach, is really going out of your way to ask for that help?
Yeah, definitely. It's something I learned to do. Like I say, when I first started coaching, I thought, oh, you know, how hard is it going to be? It can't be that bad, right? But you really learn that you need that help. Without assistant coaches and managers and even just some of the parents helping you out, you really can't do much, you know, on the ice or in the dressing room.
And just moving on to the on ice stuff, as the game of hockey has changed so much throughout the years, and as coaches in any sport, you're always looking for ways to adapt out there on the ice. So were there ways along the way that you adapted to the strategy of the game, the strategy how you coached?
Yeah, and you know, even going back to when I played the game, you know, it was basically you know, a straight line game. Dump the puck in, you know, go hit a guy, get the puck away from him, and try and make some opportunities. You know, now it's more of a speed and finesse game than it was back then. So that's where you really have to adapt is to try and adapt within that speed and that finesse game, right? Like I say, it's a totally different game now, and even with the younger kids too, when you're coaching at younger age groups, you might have some of the kids that aren't the most talented, or they don't really, they're there for the social side, as I mentioned before. So with this team, with the high school team, we have tryouts. We have kids that all want to be there. They all want to, they all want to win. So it's a totally different thing coaching a whole group of kids that really want to be there and really excel and really try hard.
And through your years of coaching, have you had a chance to coach any teams that went to championships in your years of minor hockey?
No, not really. We never did really make. I guess one of my other son and daughter, they played on a team. We won our league banner one year. That was about as far as we ever made it. Just could never quite seem to get over that hump with any of the other teams.
So what do you think those other teams that have been able to win championships, have you been able to learn as to how important it is to build a foundation of a roster from teams like that?
Yeah, for sure. Like you say, the main core of your roster is very important. That foundation is huge, and then you just build around that, right? We were lucky enough this year that we had a real good main core with the Mustangs, and then our everybody had a role on the team, and everybody else was there for a reason, right? So it that core is huge.
And so we'll move into your time with the Mountain Mustangs this season. You had a chance to coach at the high school level for the very first time. So before we get into anything, how was that like taking that step to high school after you've only coached a level like minor A Bantam?
It was a bit of a learning curve, I do have to admit. I guess the opportunity came up with the previous coaches decided not to return for this year. So opportunity was there, and I just jumped at it. I kind of said, well, it might be my last chance to coach my son, so we'll try it out. And like I say, it was a big learning curve, a pretty steep adjustment, I guess, right at first. I'd never run a tryout before, so that was a big learning curve. I'd been to quite a few and taken a lot of notes and whatever else, so it was definitely an interesting thing to do.
And just moving into the tryouts that you guys had, players coming into tryouts, who were the players that stood out the most? Were there anybody that kind of stood out at tryouts and carried their dominance into the season?
Definitely our grade 12 players. We had a couple of grade 12 players that had actually played in grade 9 as well. So they've been around this team for a few years already. And like I said, we had a pretty good contingent of grade 12 guys, and they came into camp and they looked really good right from the start. And like I say, they carried the team, and they carried the other kids along the way too. They kind of really showed the rest of the guys what it takes and what you need to do to be on the team. So it was pretty good.
And just talking about what we were talking about before, talking about the core that is so hard to build as a coach, was it a bit easier having those returning players come in to build around a core like that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And like I say, just those guys, the core grade 12 guys most of them played in their grade 10 year, so they've already been there. This was their third season. A couple of them, it was their fourth season. So it just makes it so easy, right? Those guys are really comfortable out there. And with their comfort level, it just calms the rest of the team down too, right? On the bench, in the dressing room, on the ice, the other guys, the younger guys see that, and it's huge for those guys.
And what was the biggest part of the team that you guys looked to improve upon going into tryouts? Because of course there were returning players, but there were some holes to fill, I'm sure.
Yeah, there were some holes to fill. Like I say, adding depth, we needed to, it's okay to have, a top line and a second line that's pretty good. But I wanted to have 3 lines that we could just roll every night. So that depth was really big. Another thing we really needed to work on was discipline. The last couple years, the Mustangs were kind of known to be an undisciplined team. A lot of some bonehead penalties, some suspensions along the way. So the team discipline was a really big thing too this year.
And what was the way you guys looked to change that team discipline coming in?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just asking, what were the biggest ways you guys changed the team's, I guess, the team's culture and the sense of the discipline?
Well, I think for me going in, knowing a lot of these guys going into this year was pretty big, and I had a real good feeling that we could likely win the league and provincials this year. But we really had to teach these guys that, look, we can't win if you're not on the ice, right? So we need those guys on the ice. And like I say, it was a big thing for our grade 12s to really buy into that, because I think they realized too that we could win and we could have a championship season if they did things right.
And going into the first preseason game that you guys played, you guys did play the Belleville Barracudas. I saw that in your one preseason game. You guys also had a tournament as well, but you guys dropped that game to Belleville 7-2. But Belleville, a bit of a, I guess, a higher level team, as they were AAA compared to your AA status. How important did you feel it was to play a team like that you guys know is better than you, but getting to play a team like that to start off was good to figure out the weaknesses you guys might have had, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it was really good. So in the past, at the tryouts, teams in the last few years hadn't really played any games against any different teams. Always played kind of the same, our league teams and this and that. So I really wanted to bring in a team that we hadn't played against, and for that reason, right, to try and see where we stacked up. So it was a pretty big learning experience for a lot of the young guys. I know that first preseason game against Belleville, we didn't run our full lineup. We had some of the players that were still trying out were out there, and it was definitely the speed was a big factor for those guys. So I think they really got their eyes open as to where we needed to be successful.
And of course, it was your first year coaching at the high school level. What were some of the things that you learned from the speed of the game of high school in that first game?
Some of the biggest things were on the defensive side. You really have to, offensively, you can pound away in their end and do what you have to, but on the defensive side, if you get burnt, you look real bad pretty quick. So that was where we really needed to shore things up, was on the defensive side. Like I say, that speed and quick passes and quick plays, you really need to be aware of that.
Well, we're going to get into your regular season in just a moment here, but we're going to hear from our sponsors who've decided to sponsor the show here again on this edition of Championship Rewind. I'm with Chad Foster, head coach of the Mountain Mustangs, and we'll be back in just a moment. And back here with Chad Foster, head coach of the Mountain Mustangs, the 2019-2020 Zone 4 High School Hockey Championship team. And we were just getting into the tryout process before the break, talking about the returning players coming in, talking about that first game playing in high school, the first game that Chad got to coach, talking about the game speed, the things he noticed as well. And now we're going to get into the regular season. But before we do that, you guys had a tournament before the season to get your legs going. So what was the decision to enter a tournament like that so early in the season?
You're talking the Morris tournament, I'm guessing, in October. Yeah, I think the last couple of years the team has gone to that same tournament, and I think the way things worked with our season this year, we didn't have a whole lot of time before our league play started. So it was pretty important to get into that tournament. Just like you say, get legs moving. We had our roster made at that point. So it was a real important tournament for us to see who did what and had what kind of talents. And then we could really kind of focus on our lines and getting our combinations correct. And that really helped for the rest of the season for us.
And even though you guys did drop all 3 games in that tournament, you guys played teams that are pretty high skilled in the Winnipeg High School Hockey League. We're talking about teams like Sanford, the Dakota Lancers, and St. Paul's. You guys didn't fare so well against St. Paul's, but against Sanford and Dakota, you guys were able to hold them to one goal apart from the win. So like 3-2 for Sanford and 2-1 for Dakota. So was that when you saw your team really take form at the start of the season? And it was nice to see that, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was. And, we went into that tournament. It was not really about winning. We really didn't. I knew we were going to lose some games there. I hoped we weren't going to lose all 3, but I knew we were going to lose something, just because of the way we were doing our combinations and stuff. But it was really good to see who was going to step up and who wasn't going to step up, and which guys we needed to work with and in which ways. So yeah, it was really big. And like you say, just to see the competition level out there, right? We really got a good look at some of these teams and to know what we're up against for the rest of the season.
And what were the most the biggest aspects, I guess, in the game that you guys saw and the strengths of your team throughout that tournament?
The strengths we really saw was our offensive side. That we kind of had a real good idea it was going to come in real good throughout the season, and yeah, it started off. We were a really hard team to play against in the offense in our offensive zone. Defensively is where we were still on the struggling a little bit, but like I say, the offensive side was really there right off the start.
And moving into your season in October, you guys started off 2-1, but just getting that first one after not being able to win in the preseason and in that tournament, was it pretty encouraging for you guys?
Yeah, it was. Some of the guys were down a little bit after that Morris tournament. Losing 3 games is pretty hard on the psyche, I guess. So getting into the regular season and just kind of getting into the grind of things, that really, starting off, like you say, 2-1 really kind of helped some of those guys just kind of calm down and get into it and say, they knew at that point that, yeah, we can play, we can do some good things. So just kind of keep things going from there.
And even though you guys did put up great offensive numbers in that month of October, 20 goals for, you guys did drop that 3rd game. I think it was 6-5. So obviously maybe some problems in the D zone up to that point. Was it more in the defensive zone with the turnovers? Was it more you guys getting bad breaks? What exactly were the problems at first in that D zone?
It was a bit of both. There's a few bad breaks, but just we had a real tough time playing team defense. Our defensive players are talented guys. They were all good players, but we just needed our forwards to really buy into the team defensive side of things. You can't just have 2 guys defending and your goaltender, because you're going to get things aren't going to turn out very well for you. So we really had to work on our team defense side of things. Neutral zone turnovers, we're real bad at those. We'd get the puck to the blue line and we'd turn it over to their D. So it was just a lot of those little things we had to work on. And like I say, once we kind of started sorting that out a bit better, it got a lot easier for sure.
And it sure did. In November, you guys started off with a 3-game win streak after that loss. Just talking about your team's ability, because you guys didn't really lose much this season besides in preseason and in some tournament games. But in the season, you guys had a 22-2 record. But for the losses that you guys had, you guys would always come back strong. Do you think that was maybe one of the underlying strengths of your team, was the ability to bounce back after losing a game?
Yeah, it really was. And like I say, I think that ability really came from our veteran guys, our grade 12 guys, and even some of our grade 11 guys that have been through this before. The those guys just knew that if they played their game, did things the way we wanted them to do them, good things would happen. Like the guys would never get down. They would never get defeated before the game was over. So yeah, like I say, coming back, turning around, and they would just come back the next game and just go hard again, right? So like I say, those veteran guys really led us through the season that way.
And you guys showcased many strengths of your team in that part of the season. In November, you guys won 2 close games, 2 one-goal game wins. You guys also would pop off in the second period quite a bit, as you guys scored the most goals in a single period. Your second period was definitely your strongest, with 23 goals scored in the second period, and also getting that experience in OT, 2-0 in OT games as well in November. So just talking about all those different things, do you think that's all those different situations kind of set the blueprint for the success you guys had down the stretch?
Yeah, it definitely did. We were not a very quick starting team. Every night, no matter what we did or tried, we tried different combinations, different ideas. Our guys, it usually took half a period before they seemed to wake up. So that's where you'll notice that second period a bump in all the games. Like I say, we'd start off slow. We'd really build in the second period. In the third period, we would just kind of take control and never really had to worry too much in some of the games. The overtime games, back to our veteran guys, we'd get into OT and they wouldn't even be worried about it. They knew that they could score goals. They knew that we could hold the other teams off and go down there and score some goals. So it was, like I say, just building that momentum from a slow first period start and going into the second, third period and into OT was really big for us.
And you guys also showcased some big game offensive ability as well, having 2 notable big wins from that month: a 7-1 win against PCI, and then a 10-4 win against Pembina. And just talking about the offensive strengths, as you talked about it in the show, as it was probably the biggest strength you guys showcased throughout this season. How nice was it to see early on in the season that even though you guys have done before, you were able to have big offensive showings like that?
Yeah, that's it's really big. You don't want to really end up in lopsided games ever, because you end up with some real bad habits forming. But some of those games, were really, really good for our guys, because they realized that, yeah, we can do this. We went into that PCI game. PCI is a hard team to play against. They've got some big bodies out there, and when we go out there and really show them what our offense can do, that just gets the guys' confidence sky high, right? So those were big games for us for sure.
And then moving into December, one of the best months your team had, and just talking about the tournament in Braeden, talking about the bonding experience that, because I played hockey as well, and tournaments, going on the road with a team can be such a huge bonding experience to bond with your teammates. So can you speak a bit about that bonding experience, even though you're a coach, from looking at how your players bonded?
Yeah, that was huge. That's one thing we actually talked about real early on with our guys right from the start was do everything as a team. Like we needed these guys to gel, right? So one of my ideas in the past, we've done this Braeden tournament a few years now, and in the past, players stayed with their parents at different hotels and kind of spread out around the city. Some would stay together, some weren't. And this year, we talked to management. We said, we really need to get these guys together. This is likely going to be our biggest bonding tournament that we can have. So we did that. We all stayed together, all the players, coaches, and management. We left the parents, staying at a different hotel. So it was kind of a no distractions, no nothing else. So it was just the boys together all weekend, and that to me was really, before that tournament, we did okay, but we didn't hit our full potential. So I really think in that tournament is where the boys really gelled. And like I say, we were firing on all cylinders after that tournament.
And talk about a dominant run to the finals. You guys had 3 shutout wins on the way to that finals. You guys had 25 goals in 4 games. And in one of the games, you guys didn't shut out a team, but you guys only allowed 1 goal against. So just talking about the problems you guys had in the D zone earlier on in the season, you saw those problems kind of go away in this tournament.
Yeah, we did for sure. Like I say, it was a total turning point for our season, playing that tournament. We went into there. I was a little worried about some of the Westman high school hockey league teams, because we've played them in the past years, and they're tough teams to play against. And when we went in there and started winning and playing the way we did, the confidence just built for our guys. They just knew that they could go in there and do anything against any team, right? So those were huge games for us to really build our confidence level.
And that run to the finals set up a championship game with Garden City, and Garden City plays in the top division in the Winnipeg High School Hockey League, the Platinum Promotions division there. What was the expectation heading into that game? Did you guys kind of have the mindset on winning it all, or was it more of go out there and just give it your best and whatever happens, happens?
Well, of course, anytime you play a game, you want to win. And my mindset was to go in there and win. Our boys were real tired going into that game, and I really think a few of them knew that this, Garden City was ranked number 1 in the Quad A in Winnipeg, right? So they were the best of the best, and we were playing against those guys. And I really think some of our guys were maybe defeated before we even got into that game. We had a real slow start, but partway through the first period and going into the second period, I think our guys started realizing that, hey, look, we can play with these guys. Ended up being a 6-4 loss to them, but we gave them 2 goals in the first minute and a half of the game. And then, like I said, we played with them the rest of the game. So I really think that was a big confidence builder too. Guys were kind of realizing that, yeah, I think we can play with anybody there now.
And you talked about it before. You said it was that tournament you thought set the tone for the rest of the season. In what ways do you think that it really did set the tone?
Well, like I say, playing against the top-ranked team in Manitoba and only losing 6-4 after having a real bad start, I really think that made our guys' confidence level go real high. Not only that, like I say, you get that confidence level, and then you realize that, maybe we're the team that people are looking up to, because, we play those games, we win those games, we get to the final of I think the Vic-In tournament is one of the better tournaments around. You get to those finals, all the other teams are looking at us then, right? So it's a big confidence booster for sure.
And then just your in-league play as well. Your defensive play was maybe at its best all season in that stretch, only allowing 8 goals in 5 games. Were there players on the defensive end that really took shape and stood out to you in that month?
Yeah, it really did make a difference. We had on the defensive side, we had 2 grade 12s that were, really good players, and their confidence levels just skyrocketed after that. I really think, the confidence those guys showed. We had 2 rookies on our defensive core, 3 rookies, I guess, on our defensive core, and those guys were a little suspect sometimes. But when they saw these grade 12s and the confidence they had, those guys just rode on their tails, right? And it was really good for the defensive guys. Like I say, they really came to their own, and they really realized that, yeah, we can do this, right? Speed of the game, I think, had kind of slowed down for some of those guys. They realized what they needed to do to combat that. So it was a big thing for sure.
And just talking about your goaltending, talking about the experience you guys had there, 2 grade 12s, Remy Bosk and Nathan Talbot were outstanding for you guys this season. Is that when you saw Remy and Nathan really hit their strides in that month?
Yeah, it really was. We told those guys from day one that there is no clear-cut number 1 goalie, no number 1, no number 2. We were going to roll them all through the season. And I think because of that, they really both got real comfortable. Those guys get along great. They helped each other out. They pushed each other, right? So But no, those guys, they're just calm, cool, collected. They're just real good guys to have behind you. Your defense knows if they make a mistake, those guys had their back, right? So it was huge to have those guys behind us for sure.
And then going into the break, you guys were sitting really nicely, having one of the best months of the season up to that point for you guys in a stretch, and you guys had great experience in that tournament as well. But you guys, coming out of a break, did you guys have any practices during the break to get ready for the rest of the season?
Yeah, we did. We did take a bit of time off at Christmas. I think the guys deserved it at that point. We'd been pushing them pretty hard up to that point, so we took a bit of time off. And yeah, we had a couple of real hard, real fast-paced practices before league started up again in January. So it was definitely needed because I think the Christmas turkey was taking effect in some of those guys. But like I say, we had some pretty good practices going in, and it just set the tone for the rest of the season.
And just talking about those practices, you guys decided to go with the fast-paced practices instead of a lax skate. How important do you think it is for teams in general who are going into a break to have fast-paced practices like that and not take the foot off the gas?
Well, anytime you slow down, the other teams are catching up, right? So to me, it was always push hard, fast-paced. You need to do that. I always tell the guys, you practice how you play a game, right? So you go into a practice and you're kind of slow, you're going to be slow in a game. So you really need to have that fast pace, and we never really shied away from any of the hard contact in practices or anything like that. It was practice like you would play in a game for sure.
And you could see that intensity from the practices translate over to your in-game play as well, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. We really noticed when we had there was a few practices throughout the year that weren't so good. The guys weren't going. I don't know if fatigue or whatever else. And the game after that, we would always have a real slow start and just didn't look real good. So yeah, you definitely see the connection there for sure.
And obviously, you guys did have some success from those practices, being able to get that early jump on teams that maybe weren't practicing, as you guys had 43 goals for in that month. And just talking about the ability of that offensive group, it's so prominent, it seems, for you guys last season, the season that you guys won. But talking about the consistency down the stretch, because the consistency to be able to do that is very tough. So what were the ways that you guys were able to manage and produce that consistency?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me to be consistent was rolling. We had 3 real good lines, and we would just roll those lines. It really, didn't really matter who we matched up against or what lines we matched up against on the other teams. Our 3 lines would be able to go out there and our top line with Merrick de Grave and Luke Vandeveld, those guys, their offense, they're the offensive guys to start with, right? So we knew we were going to get goals there. Second line, we had Xander Carls on that line with my son Liam, and those guys, same thing there, right? We know those guys can score, but it was when our third line really started, late December, early January, they started rolling and they started producing that we really noticed a difference in our game. We could play those guys against anybody out there and have some success, right?
Right. So going into the playoffs, you guys had a 22-2 record, and you guys sat second going in. You finished with the 2nd seed. It set up nicely for a playoff run that obviously worked out for in your favor. But just talking about the players who, for you, in your opinion, exceeded expectations in the regular season, who would those players be?
Well, obviously, I just mentioned a few of them. Like we had Merrick de Grave was the MVP of the league. He was the MVP for a reason, right? Like when Puck would be on his stick, he made things happen. He was in the offensive zone, defensive zone. Didn't matter where he was or when he was on the ice, you noticed him quite well. And like I say, some of our grade 12 guys, right? They were huge for us. Just having those guys and that calming influence was really big. I think the addition of Xander Carls this year was a big thing for us too. He played with the Pembina Valley Hawks in the previous year, and I think that experience for him was big too, right? So yeah, like I say, you go back to our defensive side and our goaltending. Those guys were such calming influences too that it was huge. Those guys were big for us all the way through.
And just talking about the season that Merrick had, he had 132 points. Obviously, a deserving MVP award for him for sure. But you just talked about everything that he does. He's an all-around great player. What do you think are the things that kind of go into him having that success? Is it the work he puts in off the ice, in practice? What would that be?
It's a little bit of everything with him. Like I say, he's always had the natural offensive ability, but I think him working on his defensive game was the biggest thing this year. If you're not giving up goals, you're in the offensive zone scoring goals, right? So that was a big thing. He's also got a real good hockey mind. Like he really thinks things plays through, and he knows the game real well in and out. So that made a big difference also.
So just going back to the team in general, what were the things that you guys worked on going into the playoffs?
Going into the playoffs we were still working on our defensive side, our team defense. They always say defense wins championships, and I really believe that to be true. Our forwards still had some work to do to keep that puck out of our zone, and to get the puck out of our zone. Like I say, so basically team defense was still one of our biggest worries.
And do you guys have a team meeting at all going in to kind of get the boys together for one last time before you guys geared up for the playoff run?
Nothing specific. Just your regular practices and stuff. Like I say, we would meet at every practice and kind of go through some stuff and different scenarios and just talk to the guys about what it's going to take to get to where we need to be. So yeah, I think, like I say, just our regular team meetings at practices was all we really needed.
And just talking about the things you guys worked on going in was that D zone, but was there a message from you on the coaching staff that you guys translated to the players, or am I totally wrong with that assumption?
No, there's always a message, right? Like if you're coaching and you're not giving a message, well then there's something wrong. But no, we really needed to get the guys to buy into that team defense. So like I said, to me that was our biggest message was hey, look, you might not agree with everything we're saying, or you might not agree with your role on the team, but you need to buy into it and you need to do what we're asking you to do, and good things will happen.
Well, Chad, we're going to go into our final commercial break here on this edition of Championship Rewind. I've been joined by Mountain Mustangs head coach Chad Foster. We've talked about his coaching career so far up until this year. We've talked about the 2020 season, the aspects of what made this team so great this year, but we'll be moving into their playoff run and recapping their playoff run in just a moment here. But first, we'll hear from our sponsors for one last time here on Championship Rewind.
Are you looking for a career in the salon industry? Check out Aveda Institute Winnipeg in the Exchange. What sets us apart is our student mentorship program, 95% placement rate after graduation, real-world salon experience, and network of 7,000 salons and spas. You will learn creative cut and coloring, latest trends and techniques, social media marketing, fashion shows, photo shoots, and more. Now accepting applications for 2018, so check us out and book your tour today. Aveda Institute Winnipeg. Hair school the way it should be.
And Chad Foster, head coach of the Mountain Mustangs championship team of the 2019-2020 season in the Zone 4 Hockey League, joining me here on Championship Rewind, the first edition of the Mountain Mustangs here on the network. And we were talking about his coaching career up to this point earlier on in the interview, and before the last break, we talked about the regular season that his team had, the things that they worked on throughout the season, and the things that he found were really clicking for his team. So now, Chad, we're going to move on to the playoff run that you guys had. And pure dominance for you guys. You guys didn't drop a game, but I'm going to go round by round here. You guys faced off against Carmen in that first round, and Carmen was a 7th seed, and they lost their first 5 coming in. But do you think that it was just going in, the game plan that you guys had for them, playing a team that's maybe hungry to prove something? Do you find that a big factor at all, game planning for that team?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. You know, that first round we went into there, and we had been talking to the guys, you know, quite a bit in the month leading up to playoffs that hey, look, people want to beat us, right? Like we're the team that people want to go out and beat because we're one of the top teams in the league. So going into that first playoff series, I guess, against Carmen, we knew that those guys were going to be pushing pretty hard to try and steal one in their home rink. So yeah, it was just one of those things. We know the way we needed to play. It was just putting that all into place, I guess.
And talking about the level of playoff hockey versus regular season hockey, it's always been talked about how playoffs is a different game. Maybe the reffing is a bit more relaxed on the calls because they just let them play. But how different did you see the playoff hockey aspect compared to the regular season aspect in high school hockey this year?
I think the playoff hockey was definitely, you know, the difference there was everybody's intensity just ramped way up. You know, like I say, that first series against Carmen, we saw some intensity out of some of their players that we hadn't seen throughout the season. And same thing on our end, right? We had some of our guys were very intense throughout that first little bit. So, you know, that's the biggest thing, is that intensity. I don't know if reffing really made a big difference, you know, in the games or not. I don't think by playoff time we had really seen a big difference in that. But like I said, the intensity was ramped right up for sure.
And going into game 1, you guys start off the game with a 1-0 lead in the first. And like you guys have all season, you guys really stepped up your game in that second and third period, scoring 4 goals in the second and 2 in the third to win the game 7-1. So how big of a confidence booster was it for maybe those young guys? Because we talked about the senior players, how they were able to take leadership throughout the year, but those younger guys probably felt a little sigh of relief getting that first one and saying, you know, we can do this thing.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. You know, going into that, this was some of these younger guys. You know, some of them, it was their first ever playoff hockey, right? Like, so there was some pretty good nerves going into that game. So I think, you know, the first period was kind of a tentative period. You know, nobody was really gaining on each other. But like I say, by the second period, we really turned it on, and I really think that just set the tone for the rest of our guys for the rest of the series for sure.
And going into you guys struggled a bit in this game, down 3-2 going into the third period, and you guys also took. I saw on the box score on the website that you guys took a bench minor in that second. So the bench minor, obviously, emotions must have been high in that game. What do you take away from that experience of that bench minor in the playoffs? Because it happens, but maybe in those big moments, it wasn't the best thing for your team at the time.
Well, I think going into that game, one of our biggest problems was that we had won 7-1 in the first game, so our guys were maybe overly confident going into Carmen. So yeah, no, you know, the bench minor, they're never the best thing to do, but like I say, it just showed some intensity on our end too, right? So just, you know, kind of showed our boys that, hey, look, you know, you need to get your act together. You need to play the way we asked you to play, and let's just get things going here, right? So,
would you say that the struggles in that game came from the way Carmen was playing with intensity? Because for them, there was no tomorrow if they lost that game.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was one of the biggest things. Is, like I say, they were trying to steal one from us, right? So, and they knew if they pushed us real hard that they might have a chance to do that. So, that was I think one of the big learning things for us too, going into the next games after that was, hey, look, we can't take anybody for granted. Like I say, we went in there thinking it was going to be easy. Carmen really pushed us hard, and we came out on top.
So you'd say that was a learning experience to never take any team lightly.
For sure. Like you say, we went in there, they were ranked 7th. but it really didn't matter, right? Playoffs are a different beast, so it doesn't matter what ranking you are. Anybody can beat anybody. So.
And I forget what year this team won in the NHL, but the LA Kings that one year when they just made it in and they won their first championship in franchise history. So it's definitely, once you get to the dance, it's anyone's trophy for sure. But just talking about the big guns stepping up for you guys again, your captain Luke Vandal tied the game at 3 apiece, 2 assists from Merrick DeGrave, and then 2 goals, including the game-winning goal from Xander Carroll's. Just talking about those guys, was this a time where their experience was at an all-time high shining through, that they really took the bull by the horns and ran with it?
Yeah, for sure. I really, that game, Xander really stepped up, for us. He was on the ice. Every time he was on the ice, he was just a force that game. We knew that Luke and Merrick could do that anytime they wanted. If they decided to step up, it would happen. But like I say, Xander really took a big step in that game to prove to us and to himself that yeah, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to play the rest of the games here.
And then you guys were able to come out with that win against Carmen to sweep them in that first round series. And you moved on to round 2, the semifinals, to play the WC Miller Aces. And this team gave you guys some problems throughout the season, even though you guys didn't drop a game to them, but they were the 3rd seed coming in. One of the best teams on the power play, as they have most power play goals. And they were battle tested as well in that first round series that they played. 2 games went to OT in that round, 1 game for them, and they lost one of those games. It went to 3 games, but they were able to come out on top. And in the 3 meetings you guys had, you were 3-0 against them head-to-head, but 2 OT wins against them in those 3 games. So just talking about a team coming in that has so much to prove, like the WC Miller Aces, after almost ending their season in that first round. How did you guys prepare for a team like that?
Well, like I say, I think, the games against Carmen really kind of showed our guys what we needed to do to win. Especially that second game in Carmen where we didn't start off very well and the guys kind of took them for granted. I think they really came into the Altona series thinking, okay, we've had tough games with these guys all year. So we need to step it up and we need to be quick and we need to get on these guys right away, or we're not gonna come out on top, right? So, like I say, they're a real hard team to play against. Good offensive talent, really good goaltending. So we knew that we needed to play our best to be able to beat those guys too.
And just looking at their top players, I had a chance to look at the award nominees, and they had 3 guys up for award nominations. Andrew Dick got the MVP nomination for their team. Ethan France, top defender nomination. Their goaltender, Ryan Gernart, I think I'm pronouncing that right, but I'm not too sure. But what was, obviously with players like this that are so talented, there's never really an easy way to shut them down. But was the game plan for them, was there a game plan in place going in to slow them down?
Yeah, definitely. When we come up against Andrew Dick and Bryson Lowen, I think was on his line most of the time. They did move those guys around a little bit, but those guys are real hard to play against. So that's where our team defense really needed to come in and really slow those guys down a lot. So our biggest game plan against those guys was to slow those guys down, and we needed to get to Beernaerts early on in the game. We really needed to score some goals and get lots of shots on him and just get in his face real early in the game. To try and get him off of his game, because when he's on, he's one of the top goaltenders in the league. So that was our biggest thing, was slowing their offensive guys down and then just get into their zone and pound on their goaltender.
And you guys obviously were able to do that. And I had this written down, but shots. And it was 110 shots in 2 games for you guys. Talking about just getting in his grill, getting into his face, were more of those shots, did you guys work on those shots to be more in high danger scoring chances to solve him?
No, not really. The biggest thing with him was just getting the puck to the net, and if he sees it, he's going to stop it. So it was, for us was getting lots of pucks to the net and just crashing and banging in front of that net. We always tried to have a guy right in his grill all the time to try and just create that distraction for him. Like I say, because if he sees a puck, he's going to stop it. So we knew that we needed to get pucks to the net no matter what, and then just from there try and bank some rebounds in.
And now you guys worked in practice prior to the series was really getting bodies in front of your goaltenders in practice to translate that into beating Beernaerts for sure.
Yeah, no, and like I say, without that, he's a really hard goaltender to play against. And like I say, their defensive players are pretty good there too. So yeah, we really worked hard on getting, like I say, in that offensive zone, getting down low, getting pucks into the net, into the dangerous zones. And like I say, it obviously worked out.
And you guys were able to dominate in that game one, winning 7-0. What was the message heading into that potential deciding game two for you guys at the time? Because one of my former coaches, Raidel Lasco, always said that game two is probably the game to finish it off is probably the hardest game to win in all of hockey. So was there a message going into game two to kind of get the boys prepared for that and say, hey, we know what happened last series. We can't let that happen again. Let's go out and dominate.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was, right? It was don't do like we did against Carmen. We need to go into game two, and we needed to dominate from the start. We needed to get offensive chances right away. Altona is always a hard rink to play in. So it was, we needed to make sure that we dominated from the beginning. If not, we're going to be in trouble.
And in that game too, you guys were able to kill off a lot of penalties. They only had one power play goal. And with a team like the WC Miller Aces being so good on the power play, having the most power play goals in the league, how I guess encouraging was that to see your penalty kill come out to play in that game?
Well, it was real encouraging. I know we had some guys that were pretty beat after that game just because they were on the ice so much, killing those penalties. But no, it was huge to see that they could do that, right? So, and again, a big confidence builder. Every time you kill one off, it just makes things even easier when you're 5-on-5, right?
Right. And going into that championship series, you guys set up this fun series against the Morris Mavericks, and you guys split the head-to-head in the season, and Morris was, by the numbers, the best team in terms of goals against allowed in the league with 52. And just the rivalry built, I want to get into that with Morris because they've always been a team in the past, it seems like, that's always gone head-to-head with the Mountain Mustangs, and you guys have always had a big rivalry with them.
Yeah, those guys are definitely, like you say, huge rivals of ours. They're a real fun team to play against too. They're well coached, and like I say, they play the game the way it should be played. So to me, that was our biggest challenge was playing the making them play against us instead of us playing against them. So like I say, they're a fun team to play against. So I was real glad that we could have them in the finals for sure.
And then going in, you guys were able to solve one great goaltender in Beernaerts, but you guys played against Declan Wall, the goaltender for Morris. What was the key to solving Declan? Was it more of the same with Beernaerts, or was it a different game plan going in?
It was a little bit of a different game plan with him. Against Beernaerts, like I say, if he sees something, he's stopping it. With Wall, we really had to work on getting him moving because we found if he was moving laterally or side to side, we could take advantage of him then. So that was our biggest thing, was getting him moving. Trying to play that east-west game instead of the north-south game, and it really worked out for us.
And then one went away after winning game one. Just the adjustments you guys made going into that game too. Was the message to the team to play more of the same game in that first game, or was it the same message as you guys carried on throughout the whole playoffs?
It was pretty much the same message as the rest of the playoffs. We knew that our defense was going to have to step up, and our goaltending. And Remy played amazing throughout the playoffs. for us, and our defense really had to step it up because players like Cody Clark, well, when he's on the ice, he can take advantage of a slower defenseman very quickly. So we really needed to play hard defense against those guys. So we knew that's where we need to step up. And like I said, the offensive side, we know that we're going to score goals. So we just have to make sure we give up less than we can score, right? So.
And just talking about Remy, he faced 34 shots in that first game and only let up 1 goal. And just it seemed like you guys were showing it in the season that your defense was able to step up. But in a championship game, I bet that was so encouraging to see Remy and that defense step up in that big moment when you needed them.
Yeah, no, it was huge. Remy is just so calming back there. He just never gets rattled, never gets phased. So that is huge for our guys. And in front of him we had Ian Delight and Spencer Vandeveld. Those guys really stepped to the plate too. With those guys there, we knew that we had a good combination, and that, like I say, they really stepped up and they made things a lot easier for us for sure.
And then going into game 2, you guys were able to win the championship in that game, beating them 5-4. 5-4 was the score.
Yeah.
And you guys got off to that 2-0 start in the first period. And it was something that maybe kind of unusual for you guys, but you guys really hit your stride in this series, getting off to these strong starts. What do you think was the key to getting those strong starts?
Well, I really think having really slow starts throughout the season kind of made our guys realize that, yeah, we need to come out stronger than we have been. So it really makes a big difference in a game if you can get that strong start. So I think our guys just really bought into that whole system and idea, and it made a big difference for sure.
And then there was some second period pushback from the Morris Mavericks as they scored 2 goals. And you guys were able to score 1 in the second as well, making it 3-2. But then in the third, they were able to tie it. And actually, that game was a 4-3 win for you guys. I'm just reading this now. So just.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's all good. But the pushback that the Morris Mavericks were able to kind of unleash on you guys. I don't know if that's the right word, but was it something that had the players nervous, or was it that experience kind of pulling through again that said, hey guys, let's stay calm. We can do this. We've done this before.
There was definitely a lot of nerves going into that game, and especially being, our rival Morris Mavericks in a championship game on home ice. That was huge for us, right? So, big crowd out there in Swan Lake that night. So I think our guys really came into that, and then they got on the ice and they realized that there's 500 or 600 people at this game, and they were just kind of blown away by that. And I think the nerves were definitely there. But our big guns, like our captain Luke Vandeveld and our grade 12 kids, they really stepped to the plate and they really calmed their young guys down and said, look, we can do this. We've got the team to do this. So let's play our game and let them chase us, right?
And then Vander Carroll just had a huge playoff for you guys, among one of your team's leading scorers in the playoffs, and he ended up scoring that game-winning goal. How proud were you to see Xander step up in those big moments throughout the playoffs and really cap it off for you guys?
Well, like I say, throughout the season, he really became a pretty dependable player. Him and my son Liam played on the same line for most of the season, and those guys, we said it game in and game out, those two are likely the hardest 2 players to play against in the league. They don't ever give up, ever. So like I say, coming into the playoffs, Xander was really on fire, and like I say, he just when he steps up his game, he's a really hard player to play against. Real powerful skater, good with the puck. So he's a hard player to defend. So we know when he's rolling that good things are going to happen.
And I know that you told me before the show today that you were actually taking a step back from coaching at the high school level next year. Before we get into the decision a bit to do that, I just want to, since you won't be there to see Xander Carroll's in his senior year, but how proud are you to see where his hockey career is going to go from this point on?
Well, I think big, he can likely kind of go anywhere he wants in the future. He's just that good of a player. Like I say, such a good player, calm, quiet kid, never really gets rattled. Good things are going to happen with him for sure.
And then just talking about the final minutes in that championship game, how stressful was it on the bench, or was it that experience coming in again?
It was definitely a different kind of stress, I guess. Like I say, experience-wise, I had 3 assistant coaches that have all been there. Braeden Beernaerts was one of our assistant coaches. He won championship with the Pembina Valley Twisters a couple years ago. Riley Wise actually was one of the last goaltenders to win a championship with the Mustangs back in, I think it was 07 or 08. And we had Tony Carls on the bench as well, who was a real good calming influence. So with those guys, it just, there was some nerves there for sure, but with those guys, it really, really made everything a lot more calm and really helped the players to calm down as well.
And that just goes back to your point earlier on the show, way earlier in the show, when you're talking about, as you learned growing up as a coach, that it's key to lean on the experience of other coaches and ask for help. You could definitely fill that experience with this coaching staff.
Yeah, there most definitely. That was one of my goals going into the season was to get a staff that would make things a lot easier on everybody. So like I say, with those guys there, it really made a big difference for sure.
And for the first time since 2008, you guys, this program was able to win a league high school championship. To know that you're one of the first coaches to do it in such a long time, how proud are you of that accomplishment?
It's a pretty big source of pride for sure. Having played with the Mustangs and just following them throughout the years, you kind of see what's going on, and you kind of keep your eye on or hand on the pulse of things, and it's a big thing to have that happen. We had tons of messages and text messages and emails and just seeing people on the street after that, and everyone's just so proud of it, right? So it's pretty big.
And before we let you go, Coach, you told me yesterday, or this morning actually, that you're deciding to step away from coaching because of all the chaos with handling 2 other kids now in minor hockey. You feel that it's a good time to step away from it a bit. But is the plan to return to coaching at the high school level of this team at some point?
I think it likely is. Like I say, right now, just our lives are pretty chaotic right now with our other kids too. So definitely in the future, I think it's something that will be in the plans. Just not sure exactly when that's going to be.
Well, it's definitely nice for the meantime that you did go out as a champion after your first ever year of coaching high school hockey and coaching your former team, the team that you went to school with and you played for. So, Coach Chad Foster, thanks for joining us on the show today. We had a great time talking to you here today, and enjoy the rest of your summer. And I hope you have all the success in the future as well.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to be here.
Of course. Take care, Chad.
Thanks.
And Chad Foster, head coach of the Mountain Mustangs championship team in the 2019-2020 season in the Zone 4 Hockey League. And it was a long one today, almost an hour and 10 minutes. But before we let you guys go here, we're going to have many other great shows besides this one airing on the network. We got the On the Ice show, many great shows as well, as they'll be coming in the week. Coffee with Graeme as well. Besides Championship Rewind, our normal Coffee with Graeme episodes will be airing every Tuesday in the morning here on the network. So you guys aren't going to want to miss that. And that concludes our first episode of coverage of the Mountain Mustangs championship season in the 2019-2020 Zone 4 Hockey League. We're going to have many great guests from that team joining us on Championship Rewind in the next 2 weeks here, so you guys aren't going to want to miss that. And of course, Championship Rewind airs every Thursday morning, so look out for that. And thanks for everyone who tuned in today. Your support means a lot, and thanks to our supportive sponsors for supporting today's edition of Championship Rewind. Your support means a lot to us, and without you guys, this show wouldn't happen. Without everyone supporting us, this show wouldn't happen. And until next time, I'm your host of Championship Rewind and Coffee with Graeme, Graeme Forsyth, signing off here. Enjoy your week. Enjoy the time with your family. Enjoy the summer. And I'll see you guys next time here on the network. But until next time, peace out.